How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a good day because today we have one of the craziest Karen stories ever. So sit back, relax, maybe grab something to eat, grab something to drink, subscribe if you're new. We're going to call today's subscriber who submitted this story, we're going to call him Zach. So anyways, right, Zach and his mom move into a new neighborhood. And, Zach is, I don't know, he's in high school, so he's kind of an older kid. Zach isn't an adult yet, but he's kind of getting up there, right? And so anyways, right, Zach and his mom, they move into this new neighborhood and, they drive in and they're like unpacking their bags and they're getting in there. And believe it or not, their neighbors are not Karens. Their neighbors are actually really cool people, and their neighbors walk over and they say, hey, like, we're going to help you move in. Not even like, do you need help moving in? They're like, hey, we know what it's like. We're going to help you move in. So they helped them move all the boxes, and they said, hey, come over for dinner tonight. So Zach and his mom were actually really excited because they had really cool neighbors. And so sure enough, right, dinner time came around and they walked over to the neighbor's house, and the neighbor was kind of just telling them all about the neighborhood. And Zach's mom was like, hey, is there anything we should know about the neighborhood? Because I don't know, maybe there's a really cool restaurant that no one really knows about, but is really good and it's kind of underground. Maybe there's really cool, maybe there's a really good park. I don't know if they had kids or something. Maybe there's kind of a sketchy part you want to stay away from. I don't know. There's maybe some things about the town that you just wouldn't know from a quick Google search. And the neighbor kind of looked at them and said, well, there's actually this woman. You might see her walking around and just don't make eye contact. Just kind of let her go about her business. And kind of Zach and his mom look at each other kind of a little bit what's going on here? I don't like this. This is a little weird. And then the neighbor's like, you know what? Don't even, you know what? That's nothing. It's nothing. Forget I said anything. Dude, whenever someone says, forget I said anything, that is the most ridiculous statement ever, because they say something really interesting. They're like, oh, forget I said anything. Dude, I will not be able to forget that you said something of interest. Come on now. So anyways, they continue on having dinner, and it's a great rest of the dinner. And Zach and his mom are walking back over when it's to their house when it's done. And Zach says, that was really cool, but didn't you think that was weird when that guy started to talk about this woman that walks around the neighborhood and how we shouldn't make eye contact? And then kind of midway through his sentence, he said, you know what? Forget I said anything. That was weird, right? And Zach's mom was like, yeah, man, that's kind of strange. I'm not going to lie, but whatever. If it's really an issue, he probably would have said something. He's pretty cool. So anyways, days go on, probably about a week or so, and Zach is about to get into his car. So Zach has his keys. He's walking outside and he's looking at his car. He's about to put his keys into his car when he sees in the reflection of the car, right? There's a kind of a figure moving in the background. So Zach turns around and sure enough, across the street, he sees this woman walking. And it's this kind of older woman, and she's kind of waddling along, and she has these big aviator sunglasses on. And that's when she stops walking. And she turns and she looks directly at him. And Zach is a little bit freaked out. He's not going to lie. He's a little bit freaked out at this moment. So he quickly turns back around to put his keys into the car and be I'm not going to start anything. And that's when he notices in the reflection of the car that the little kind of blob in the background is starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So he turns around and he looks, and sure enough, right, the Karen is crossing the street. But she's not crossing the street just to cross the street. She was very intently coming right at him. She wasn't crossing over, or wasn't going to the house next to him or before him. She was coming right at him. So Zach at this point knew that he probably couldn't get away with just putting his keys in the car and, running in, because she was closing in fast. Even though she was a bit of a shuffler and didn't move that quickly, I guess when the Karen wanted to strike, the Karen was going to strike. So sure enough, the Karen walks up to his lawn. And, Zach kind of turns away from his car and looks at her and says, hello there, Obi-Wan Kenobi. No, I'm just kidding. She's like, hey, what's up? And the Karen is like, you don't live here. And Zach is like, well, no, my mom and I just moved in a couple weeks ago. She's like, nope, I know the owners of this house. They're trying to find someone to buy it, and you are squatting in here. If you don't know, squatting is basically when a house is in limbo, no one's living in it, but someone will probably live in it at some point. people will kind of just break in and just live in the house without paying any rent or anything like that, or just without owning the house, just because, like, I mean, no one's living in there, and it is technically a crime. So sure enough, the Karen was accusing them of that. And Zach at this point was like, ma'am, no, this is my house, or this is my mom's house, and I'm living with her. Like, we're just not squatting. That's just not a thing. And she's like, no, I know the landlord, and I do not remember her telling me that she sold the house. So you must be squatting. You better get out of here. I'm giving you a countdown of 1 day for you and your little squatter buddies to get out of my neighborhood. And Zach is like, well, ma'am, I'm not going to get out of your neighborhood nor this house because I live here, and my mom and I purchased this legally. And the Karen's like, nice try. Just know that I will get the authorities involved if you're not gone within 1 day. And Zach is like, okay, sure, do it. Real quick, comment Karen down below if you made it this far into the video. And if you want to support the channel, just sit down and binge watch a bunch of videos. It really does help me out. And let me know in the comment section what you're doing while you're watching my videos, like playing video games, going to sleep, whatever it is. I'm going to be pretty active today in the comments, so I'll try and heart and just say thank you. I appreciate you guys watching me and just always, I really do. And I wish I could say it. I'm going to get back to the story. I don't want to drag this on, but I just want to say thank you. Like, genuinely, I'm very grateful. Anyways, let's get back to it. So sure enough, Zach is like, okay. And the Karen turns around and walks over to the other side and is like pouting the entire time. Like, it's very weird and surreal. So when Zach's mom gets back from work, Zach is like, yo. And his mom's like, what? And Zach's like, dude, so you know, like how we were over at that house? And, you know, his mom's like, yeah, like we're just over there a couple weeks ago. You know how they're talking about that lady that we shouldn't make eye contact with? And Zach's mom's like, yes. And Zach's like, dude, it was crazy. I was just looking at my car and I saw something in the reflection. And then a lady just came over and she accused me of squatting. And his mom's like, dude, what? And Zach's like, yeah, she said I had 1 day to get out or she's getting the authorities involved. And Zach's mom's like, well, we're not going anywhere because we legally purchased this house. Like, that's ridiculous. And Zach's like, dude, that's what I was saying, but she didn't take no for an answer. So sure enough, right, you know, a day goes by, and the next day, Zach is at home, and it's a Saturday, so his mom is also at home. And that's when they get a knock on the door. And, you know, Zach's mom approaches, and Zach is like in the other room, so he actually comes over just to see. And when Zach is coming around the corner, he sees his mom talking to two police officers. Basically, the police officers say, hey, we got a route, we got a call that like you guys were squatting here. We don't necessarily believe it, but we have to come, like we're forced to come here. Is there any way, like, look, ma'am, it looks like you're living here. We can just go about our day. And Zach's mom's like, no. Actually, I just want to get this on the record so that she can't pull anything later on. I have the deed to my house on the phone. I think you can have a deed on your phone. She had some kind of verification / proof on her phone. Zach's mom pulls out her phone, shows both the officers. The officer's like, ma'am, so sorry about this. Like, we had to come. The lady who called you in has always been kind of trouble in the neighborhood, but we can't rule out everything she said so far because she once actually got someone. So it's, we're sorry, ma'am. Like, have a nice day. We won't ever see you again for something like this. And sure enough, right, Zach and his mom were like, oh, okay, great. This is great news. We're done. Oh, no. No. Incorrect. False. That is a false narrative. That is fake news. They were not done. In fact, that was only step one of Karen's evil plan. The Karen's evil plan only got more evil after this point. So sure enough, right, the next day comes around and Zach is back outside in his car. And once again, he's walking out to his car, and that's when he he catches something in the corner of his eye. At the end of his driveway, the Karen is standing there with her hands on her hips, and the black aviator sunglasses, once again, were piercing into his soul. So he turns around and looks at her, and they basically have a staring contest for what's probably like 5 seconds. But in Zach, it just felt like to Zach like minutes, like hours, like days, millenniums, like infinite universes amounts of time. Like, it was just so long. So Zach eventually is like, can I help you? And the Karen says, so you tricked the authorities. And Zach's like, come again? And she's like, I know you're squatting. I know that you're a big squatter and you don't actually own the rights to be here. But somehow you fooled the incompetent authorities. The police department over here are idiots, I'm telling you. And Zach's like, ma'am, come on. You called the police on us, which was ridiculous, and we showed them proof that we own the house. What more do you want? And she's like, I want to be satisfied, and I'm not satisfied until you guys are gone for squatting. And Zach's like, ma'am, do you think maybe it is a possibility that we are in fact not squatting? And she's like, no. So Zach tries to reason with the Karen, but the Karen is basically saying, I believe that you're squatting and I'm going to prove it one way or another. So anyways, Zach finds this kind of weird, a little bit ominous, but I don't know. It's some senile old woman. Like, honestly, what could she really do? What could she do? Anyways, so sure enough, right, the next day, or not the next day, right, it's getting close to bedtime. Zach and his mom, they're watching some TV show, and eventually it's getting late, and they're both like, all right, let's go to bed. So, Zach goes into his room. He's on his phone, and he's watching a video. And he hears kind of like this weird banging noise. And he's thinking, okay, did that come from my video that I was just watching, or is that actually something? And then once again, this weird banging noise. And he's like, that can't be, that has to be downstairs. So Zach gets up, and that's when he starts hearing like these footstep noises. He's like, oh my God, is someone in my house? And at first he's like, okay, maybe my mom is making like a racket down there. So he starts to walk over to his mom's room because it's a 2-story house, and they both have rooms on the second floor, and the noises were coming from the first floor. So he walks over, and he opens his mom's room. She's fast asleep. This is when Zach's heart starts to race a little bit, because he knows that those are sounds of people or some person in his house, and he was kind of thinking it was his mom until he went and saw that, in fact, it was not his mom. His mom was sound asleep. So now he's really scared. So he wakes up his mom. He's like, Mom. She's like, what? He's like, shh, quiet. His mom's like, Zach, what is going on? And Zach's like, listen. And at this point, Zach's mom's like, what? And Zach's like, Mom, I think someone's downstairs. And Zach's mom starts to come to it a little bit and is like, oh my God, hand me my phone. So they grab the phone. Zach's mom dials 911. She's like, no, this might be an emergency. I think someone's in our house. I don't know if they're armed. I don't know if they're I don't know if they're lost or somehow gone to our house. I don't know, but someone's in our house. And they're like, all right, we'll be there and whatever. So sure enough, right, Zach and his mom are like, what do we do? And Zach's like, I want to go see who it is. And Zach's mom's like, no, that's ridiculous. Barricade the door. So sure enough, Zach and his mom close their door and start moving furniture, right? And it's a pretty well barricaded door. And all they do now is kind of like Zach and his mom are kind of looking at the door. Then they're looking outside their window to check when the cops are going to call. Then they're looking at the door. And then they're looking outside the window again. And eventually, right, they see kind of like this blue flashing light. So they're like, okay, finally, great. The cops are finally here. And so sure enough, cops come and they open and they're like, open up, please. Eventually, they break through the door. And then they hear this commotion happening downstairs, like this kind of like woman kind of yelling or whatever. The cops being like, freeze, whatever, right? A lot of commotion, a lot of yelling. And Zach's like, that sounds like an old woman. And Zach's mom's like, quiet, Zach. Let the men do what they're supposed to do. Zach's like, okay, Mom. She's like, anyways, right? So eventually, they stopped hearing as much commotion. They hear steps coming up the stairs, like bum, 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 bum. And sure enough, right, then they hear a knock on the door. And they're like, all right, ma'am, it's us. We have whoever's in your house. You can come out now. And Zach's mom, 1 second, I want to check through the peephole. And the police officer's like, that's totally fine. So Zach's mom goes up to the keyhole, puts her eye in it, and kind of looks through, and sure enough, it is the police officer. So then Zach and Zach's mom start moving the furniture and blockade until they can eventually get out of the door. So they open it, and Zach's mom's like, officer, like, I don't know what happened. Is everything okay? And the officer's like, yep, everything's fine. Like, you can come down with us now. Like, it's totally safe or whatever. And so sure enough, they walk down the stairs, and the other officer has this older woman in handcuffs. And Zach is like, oh my God. And he pulls his mom aside. He said, this is the Karen. This is the Karen I was telling you about. The one who said that, like, you know, we're squatting and that the police are idiots and that she's going to prove it one way or another. And Zach's mom's like, oh my God. So sure enough, they get down there. And the Karen is screaming like, these people are squatting here. They don't own this house. They're a danger to the neighborhood. You guys are just too incompetent and foolish to understand. And the police officer's like, ma'am, quiet down, please. And so eventually Zach kind of like speaks up and he says, hey, I know this woman. And they're like, yeah, we know this woman too. And he's like, no, like this woman, you know, she's accused of squatting and sent you guys here. It was the same police officers. And they say, yep, we remember. And Zach's like, and then she said later on that you guys like were idiots and didn't understand that she was going to prove it herself. So I guess this is her proving it herself. And the two police officers like look at each other and then look at the old woman. And the Karen is like, officers, this is a perfect time for you to arrest them immediately for squatting. Officers, you don't understand. This is the perfect time for you to arrest them. Officers, arrest them immediately. What are you doing? Why are they still standing there? Arrest these hooligans who are squatting in the neighborhood. And they're like, ma'am, we saw their like documents. They're legit. And the woman's like, no, my friend is the realtor around here. She would have told me. And the officers were like, ma'am, what do you think the odds are that either they're really squatting and they were able to fake documents on a whim and show it to us and have completely moved in and faked bank documents and got a fake loan, or your friend, the realtor, doesn't update you with her life every 5 seconds. This house was sold kind of recently. When's the last time you talked to her? And the Karen's like, well, it's been about 2 years, but she totally would have told me. At this point, Zach is like, bruh, wait, what? This whole suspicion was because your friend who owns this house, you know, was going to tell you, and you haven't talked to her in 2 years? And the Karen's like, well, 1.5. No, not even 2, like 1.5. We're still really close. Zach is like, oh my God, dude. So the police are like, all right, what do we want to do here? Zach's mom stands up, looks at the Karen and says, look, we are not squatting and I'm not going to press charges, but if you ever even step foot on this house again, you know, charges will be pressed. Because what you can do is like, you don't have to press charges, but within the statute of limitations, you can always press those charges again. Like, you can, like, bring up the case again, I think. And that's basically, and the police officers are like, yeah, like, ma'am, don't come back around here. We won't have any problems. And she's like, fine, whatever. Because I think eventually Karen got it through kind of her very incredibly dense skull that maybe her friend just didn't tell her and that these people are not squatting. So, yeah, eventually Zach and Zach's mom, they go back in and they try to go back to bed, but it's pretty hard. And a couple weeks later, you know, they're invited back over to their neighbors, or actually they invite their neighbors. That's what it was. They invite their neighbors over because they fully moved in and kind of repay the favor. And the neighbors are like, so any interesting stories you have since you've moved in? And Zach's moms just look at each other and they turn. Zach's like, yeah, actually,
click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it.
How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a great day, because today we have a story of one of the craziest airport Karens of all time. Yes, this is the first time telling a crazy Karen story about a Karen in the airport. So anyways, sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and we're going to call the subscriber who submitted this story Leah. So anyways, this all happened when Leah was on vacation over the summer, and this happened a couple years ago, and Leah and her family were going to Florida, I think. And so anyways, Leah and her family, you know, they pull up in like the van that like brought them over. They walk out of the van with their bags and they're walking towards the station, so the kind of like terminal. They go to the terminal, they check in and they check in their bags. And now now at this point, there's this thing. If you guys haven't been to the airport, which I think most of you guys have, there's this thing called there's this thing called like the TSA, at least, and that's what it's called in the United States. Kind of like a check before you go into the actual airport. They just got to scan you to make sure you're not bringing anything that you shouldn't be bringing along. So this line is normally pretty long, and what they do is they make you a lot of times to make you take off your shoes, empty your bags, empty your pockets, just so they can scan everything and make sure it's all set. So anyways, like Leah and her family got in this line, and right in front of her was someone that she did not know was going to be such a big part of her life for the next couple hours. This was the Karen, but they didn't know this at this point. So anyways, Leah and her family are standing behind the Karen in line. And so eventually they get to the part of the line where they have to put their stuff into bins, scan it through, walk through the big scanner, and then eventually put their stuff back on. So if you don't know, you have to take off your shoes because people can like hide stuff in their shoes and they need to be scanned individually. And the Karen in front of them, was about to walk through without her shoes on. So the person like in the TSA was like, "Hey ma'am, can you please take off your shoes?" And she's like, "Do you know how long it would take for me to take off my shoes and put them back on? Like, that is such a big ask." And the TSA person's like, "Ma'am, I'm so sorry, but like, I don't know what to say. You kind of just have to take off your shoes, bro. Like, I don't know how else to say it. That's just something you kind of have to do, And she's like, "I'm not doing it." And they're like, "Man, we can't let you through if you don't take off your shoes." And then she's like, "Well, you let that person go without their shoes on." And she points to someone on the other side. And the TSA dude's like, "Ma'am, that person already went through without their shoes on. They've just put their shoes back on because they've already went through." And the Karen's like, "This is an outrage. Fine, I will take off my shoes so that I can go on my great vacation that you're not going on. But just know that I'm filing a complaint against this airport and about forcing women to take off shoes and not men." And the TSA dude's like, "Nope, everyone has to take off their shoes. Not just you or women, trust me." And she's like, "You know what? Your supervisor and your manager will know about this. Just have fun with your job while you have it." Which obviously, yeah, this guy is just having a great time at his TSA job. This is definitely what he wants to be doing, right? And he definitely wants to just be, picking and choosing, like, who gets to take off their shoes and who gets to be a threat, who gets to be a risk. Of course, bro, of course. So anyways, Leah and her parents kind of look at each other like while this whole thing is happening, like, "Oh my God, this woman's the worst, dude." But the thing is, right, some people have nerves when they fly. Some people are just cranky because, who knows? Maybe this Karen has been like on 17 connecting flights and Delta's like, "Well, actually, we're going to reroute you through the North Pole. It'll get you there much slower, but sorry, L. Take the L, bro." Because I don't know, stuff like that really does happen. I had a pretty bad plane or a plane experience or flying experience, which I might even turn to a story because you guys like stories coming from me, not just subscribers sometimes. But anyways, so Leah and her family goes to the TSA part and things are pretty good. Life's pretty good. They get through pretty nice and easy. I mean, they take off their shoes without making a massive fuss about it because they're good people, bro. I don't know how else to say it. But anyways, they get through and, they have about an hour until their flight starts to board. So Leah and her parents find somewhere to get some food. They stop by. They look around. Airplane food is never the greatest, but, they find a place that's all right. And then they go sit in kind of like the section where their plane is going to be, or where they're going to start boarding. And they see the Karen that was in front of them in line complaining about shoes sitting in their section. So, Leah just thinks to herself, well, okay, the Karen's probably, on the flight with us, like whatever. Leah doesn't really think anything of it because at this point, all the Karen has done is kind of made a fuss and been a little weird. Actually, a little more than a little weird. She threatened to, tell his manager that, he forced her to take off her shoes, which... what's the manager going to do? Give him a bonus for, like, doing what he's supposed to be doing? Like, I'm really confused at this point. But anyways, Leah doesn't think anything of it. And this is when there's an announcement. An announcement being like, hey, like, basically saying that, hey, flight whatever has been delayed. And the flight that they're talking about is, like, the flight that they're on. It's going to be another hour. Sorry about the inconvenience. And at this point, Leah and her parents are kind of like that sucks, but what are we going to do about it? So Leah and her parents are like, all right, well, I mean, I guess well, like, I don't know. I guess if we want to get food or something, because they already got food, but if they want to get snacks or something for the flight or anything like that, And sure enough, they're just kind of like, they're going around, they're walking around. But before any of that happens, when the announcement is made that the flight has been canceled, the Karen takes both of her fists and slams it multiple times on the armchair. She goes, bum, 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 bum. Which, like, I get it. It's frustrating. Trust me, I was just in a very, very, very frustrating airline experience. I get it. But, bro, like, it's not as if no one else is in this situation. It's not as if, like, you're the only one here who has to deal with this. But, whatever. But that's not the only thing Karen does. If you just kind of reacted angrily and kind of slammed your fists, I would kind of look at you a little funny, but I wouldn't really care. Like, at the end of the day, you do you. It doesn't really matter. However, the Karen went above and beyond because she immediately got up and she went to the front desk. And Leah was listening as the Karen says, "We have to wait another hour here?" The front desk person's like, "Ma'am, I'm sorry. Like, I can't control it." She's like, "This is outrageous. Where is your manager?" Which, bro, I swear to God, it sometimes is the Karen. Like, the Karen is always going to be like, "Where's your manager?" But in this situation, it literally, it just doesn't. It just doesn't work here because you really think the person behind the front desk is controlling when the planes come in? She's just, this woman's just telling you when. She's just an announcer, bro. I don't know how else to say it. She's just announcing the times that are told to her. If you want to, like, go to the manager, go to the person flying the plane. Go to the plane's manager, dude. Like, anyways, right? Anyways. So sure enough, like, the Karen gives this woman at the front desk a really hard time about how she's not cooperating and she's the reason why, like, the Karen is getting less hours at her epic vacation or whatever, the greatest vacation ever. And Leah is just like, is just looking at this and she's like, wow, this woman sucks, bro. Like, I don't know how else to say it. She sucks. Because at this point, right, the Karen has been berating the person at the front desk because it's her fault that, the plane is late, which, okay, obviously it's not her fault that the plane is late, dude. Do you really think she has any control? But anyways, Leah and her parents, they go and they walk around a little bit. They grab some snacks for the plane, and then they go back because now it is finally time for, to get in line. So basically, right, if you don't know, there's a lot of different ways that the, planes load on. The airline that they were flying, they already had assigned seats. So everyone on the flight had assigned seats. Some airlines work like it's just like first come, first serve, which I think is a pretty bad system. You just sit wherever. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. I like knowing where I'm sitting beforehand and kind of guaranteeing me that I have a seat. But this flight, you got a guaranteed seat. So you were sitting in like row 6A or whatever. You basically got a guaranteed seat, which was pretty cool. But anyways, right, so the other thing is it's the overhead space where you put your bags. That isn't guaranteed. So some people want to get like in there earlier to make sure that they have some overhead space. So with your ticket, you're in section A, B, C, D, or E. And, they'll tell you like, hey, if you're in section A, only people in section A start lining up now. If you're in section B or C, we will turn you away. Like, I'm sorry, that's just how it works here. So anyways, right, they call, okay, section A. And Leah notices, next to her or a couple seats down, that the Karen immediately gets up and starts power walking to the front of the line. And, at this point, Leah's like, oh, I guess the Karen's in section A, because one would assume if you're this, like, forcefully getting up and running over to be in line that, for section A, that, I don't know, that you're probably in section A or something like that. And, sure enough, she gets up there and Leah watches and the person scans her ticket or looks at her ticket and is like, ma'am, you're in section C. Like, you got to wait for that. And the Karen's like, does it really matter? And, the person's like, well, I mean, if I let you go through, then, like, literally anyone else, like, there is no point to the A, B, C, D section, like, system. Like, I'm sorry, just, like, could you just wait a second? You have an assigned seat, and we have plenty of overhead space. Like, it's just protocol. I just got to do what I got to do. And at this point, the Karen's like, so the first thing you do is stall the airplane an hour, and the second thing is you demand that I sit down after I already stood up and brought all my stuff here. Like, your supervisor/manager is going to hear all about this. Which, once again, all you're telling the manager is that this woman has been doing her job perfectly, like that she's actually been following rules to a T, which you're supposed to be doing when you're working with masses of, like, huge quantities of people, right? And having to, like, sort them and deal with them. And if you're part of a massive system that could easily fall apart, that you really do have to follow the rules. So the fact that she's following the rules, bro, I think she's getting a bonus if the Karen report, quote unquote, reports her to the manager of what? The airlines? I don't know, dude. But anyways, right, she's eventually told to go back, and then Karen is outraged at this point. She is furious. And so Group B is called, and then Group C is called, and Leah happens to be in Group C as well. So Leah and her family get up, and the Karen gets up as well, and they happen to be right behind the Karen in line. So when the Karen passes by the ticket person or the front desk person once again, and, she hands in the ticket, she's like, "Can I go in now, ma'am?" Kind of says it in a snarky, sarcastic way because she was turned away just like 20 minutes ago. Or like 10 minutes ago, really. And the front desk person says, "Yes, it is Group C's time to board." And Karen's like, "That's what I thought." It's just like, what? Did you get her here, bro? I don't think that's a got you moment. But anyways, like Lee and her family, they scan their tickets as well. And as they're walking in, so I don't know if you guys have been on an airplane before, but in the very front are first class tickets. They're really expensive, but they also give you more room. You get more on-flight amenities. It's just a better situation. I've never flown it personally. I don't know if that's necessarily worth the money. I don't know. I just don't think so. But, some people do. If you fly business a lot, maybe you can get your company to pay for it, which would be pretty sweet. But anyways, right, Leah and, the Karen are passing by the first class tickets or seats. And that's when the Karen, stops someone at the front. Because, there's flight attendants on the plane, and there's multiple flight attendants, and then there's one at the front when you start boarding on. And she's like, ma'am, I request one of the first class tickets. Yes, you heard me right. The Karen just said that she, quote unquote, requests a first class seat as she's sitting on the airplane. Real quick comment, Karen, if you made it this far into the video, I'm going to try and heart a bunch of comments of people who dropped that secret word of the day. I just want to see how many people made it this far into the video. And then also, if you want to support the channel, maybe right after this video or in a little bit, sit down and watch a bunch of videos in one sitting or in one viewing. But watching 2-3 plus videos is called binge watching, and it really does help out the channel. Also, please let me know in the comment section down below what you're doing while watching the videos. Are you playing a video game? Are you doing some artwork or something like that? Are you cleaning your room? Do these videos help you go to bed? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'll heart it. And just thanks again to everyone who's watched this far or binge watches the videos. Thanks for all the support recently. Let's get back to the story. So right, so Leah and the Karen, they walk onto the plane, and as they're about to pass by the first class seats, the Karen stops the flight attendant, which also stops the entire line, by the way. It's not like everyone else has room to move around the Karen. Probably the Karen wouldn't even let people move around her. "You're not allowed to take my seat that's already, claimed for me." But anyways, right, so the Karen's like, "I demand a first class seat for all my troubles." And the flight attendant's like, "Ma'am, you can't change your seat at this late. You could have changed in the terminal if we said that there's an ability to switch seats at this point. But all these seats have been claimed. You can't just choose these seats. I'm sorry." And the flight attendant is right in this situation. Of course, you can't just claim seats. But the Karen's like, "I went through so much troubles. When I was going through the TSA line, they made me take off my shoes. And then when I got here, I had to wait another 45 minutes because someone at the front desk decided that we couldn't go on. And then I went up and they said that I couldn't board yet because I was in the wrong boarding group. And now you're telling me that for all my troubles, I can't have a measly first class seat?" Which, by the way, the first class seat's 3 times as expensive, and they're already filled. And the Karen just described, and the flight attendant goes on to say, "I'm sorry, ma'am, we can't do that." But also, you kind of just described the situation that literally everyone else on this plane has been in. They all have to take their shoes off when they go through TSA pre-check. They all had to deal with the 45-minute delay. If they went up before their group was called, they would be turned back. If I give it to you, I'd have to give it to everyone because you guys are all in the same situation, and there are no first-class seats, not even one, to go around at this point. And, the flight attendant's like, I'm sorry, this is just what happens when you fly. And the Karen's like, fine, have it your way. So anyways, the Karen starts stopping off and starts walking down the aisle or whatever. And Leah and her parents are walking behind her because I guess they have seats near where she is. And they're kind of just looking at each other like, oh my God, this girl is crazy. Okay, she's not a girl. She's like 50 years old or something. This woman's crazy. This Karen's crazy, bro. But anyways, they keep walking down. And all of a sudden, right, so there's two people. So in a lot of airplanes, there are 3 seats. There's the window, which is really close, which you can look out the window. There's the middle, which is kind of the most cramped and in between. And then there's the aisle, which basically gives you a lot of leg room on either your left or right side. The aisle seat is normally the one that is the most sought after or whatever. And, the window seat's pretty cool, but you're still pretty cramped. And the middle seat's normally the worst. But that's some people might like it, but that's general preference, right? Most people just feel that way. I don't know how else to say it. So the Karen gets to her seat, right? The Karen gets to her seat, and there's someone in the window, and there's someone in the aisle. And the Karen says, move over. He talks to this, this kind of this older man or whatever. She's like, move over to the older man. She didn't even say, hey, I think that's my seat, anything like that. Yada. She doesn't say anything along those lines. She literally just says, move over. And Leah and her parents are listening to the whole thing because they can't move until the Karen has sit down. And the older man's like, I think this is my seat. And he pulls out his ticket. And it clearly shows that, because it shows on the ticket where you're sitting, like A, B, or C, like in the row. And it very clearly shows that he's in the aisle seat, right? It's very incredibly clear. So, at this point, right, the Karen's like, I don't care. I've had a long day. Move over. And the old man's like, ma'am, I really do need this seat. I can't, be on a flight for that long and somewhere cramped like that. I specifically got this ticket so that I get the aisle seat. In fact, I could have gotten, a seat farther up, but I would have gotten middle or window, but I just couldn't, so I got the aisle seat. And he said, I really can't give it over to you. Because this guy was 65. It's understandable. And the Karen's like, what? But I'm asking you nicely. Which she was not asking nicely. She is just demanding, right? Demanding angrily and asking nicely are not the same thing. Believe it or not. I know. Freaking crazy, bro. But anyways, right? So, Lee and her parents kind of look at each other. And they're kind of just And so a flight attendant starts to walk down towards them because they're like, what's going on? What's the holdup here? And this is when the Karen goes really out of line. She's like, I want the aisle seat and I want it now. And the old man's like, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to budge on this. So the Karen takes both of her hands and starts pushing the old man. He's like, oh, I'm unstable. Stop. She's like, meh. Starts pushing, bum. Because the Karen wants what the Karen wants. And she's going to get what the Karen wants, right? And she's like, move over. And goes, push. And the old man's like, stop it. You're hurting me. And that's when the flight attendant literally walks over and gets in between them. She's like, ma'am, we're going to have to ask you to leave. And the Karen's like, what? And they're like, we're going to ask you to legitimately leave the airplane. We're going to walk you off for assaulting another passenger. And the Karen's like, no, it's fine. I'll take the middle seat. And they're like, man, you were literally attacking this other passenger who's an older man, right? And the old man's like, ouch. And she's like, it's fine. I'll take the middle seat. I don't need the aisle seat anymore. And they're like, ma'am, you don't understand. You're not on this airplane anymore. This is one of the rules that you agreed to that you wouldn't break. Oh, I mean, attacking someone is pretty obvious of a rule, but I guess not for the Karen. That's all I'm going to say. Not for the Karen, bro. Not for the Karen. But anyways, right, at this point, the Karen's like, you guys are so funny. So funny. I will take the middle seat. Don't worry. I'll be the bigger person here. I'll take the middle seat. You don't even need to worry. And they're like, ma'am, you don't understand. This isn't a debate. We're asking you to leave the flight or we're going to remove you. And the Karen, when she hears this, is like, this is outrageous. You don't understand that your manager is going to hear all about this and you're all going to get fired. And then the Karen starts pointing to people on the plane. You're going to get fired. You're going to get, and she's pointing to a bunch of passengers too. Turns around to Leah, points at her. Leah's like a 14-year-old girl. You're going to get fired. I'm going to contact all of your managers and I'm going to have a word with all of them. And so two flight attendants are like, they're both slowly pushing the Karen out. And she's like, you won't hear the end of this. This won't be the end of you hearing about me. All of your managers will know my name. I will be in all their inboxes and they will hear all about the evil crimes you've committed against me. So anyways, and then the Karen is like dragged off plane at this point. So Leah and her parents are just like, oh my God. They sit down at their seat. And they're just like, wow, well, I guess, how's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a great day, because today we have a story of an entitled Karen who thinks that, she owns the world, she runs the world, and she can do anything. So she, goes a little bit too far, and, it's a wonderful karma story, because Karen stories without karma going back to the Karen are just, they're just unsatisfying. So, I had to bring you the karma with this Karen story. So sit back, relax, subscribe if you're new, and let's call the subscriber who submitted the story Jay. So anyways, Jay worked at a cash register at a grocery store. So he kind of worked this job over the summer. He was in high school, but it was the summer before he went to college. He was just trying to make some extra money. And basically every day on the weekdays from 9 in the morning, and he left around 5, he would go there and he would run one of the cash registers. Sometimes he was asked by the store manager to maybe go restock something or go resupply something. But for the most part, he was the person that you'd go to the grocery store, you'd give him your bag of stuff, he would run it through, and then, he would tell you how much you have to pay. So anyways, this all happened one day when Jay encountered a Karen, right? So all of a sudden, Jay, it's kind of a slow day, and Jay sees this person, walking over with a cart. And this cart is filled. It is filled to the brim with a bunch of stuff. And you might be thinking, oh, is this what's in the cart? And it's not eggs, milk, kind of like necessities. It is random birthday cakes, the most random, non-necessary stuff you've ever seen, which is, it's going to be important in a second, right? Because this cart, I'm just going to clarify even more. This cart is filled with non-essentials. It is not a single thing. Could you because I'm saying eggs, milk, water, that stuff. I'm putting that all in essentials, right? I'm making the definition of essentials very, very large and encapsulating. So when the Karen comes up to the aisle, right, Jay is just looking at this oh my God, because, he has to run everything through the scanner. So the Karen sits there, and the Karen, leaves her cart a little bit too far behind that, because, Jay's behind the cash register, and he tries to, move and grab it, and he's like, ma'am, could you bring the cart a little closer? And she looks at him and just turns her head up and, looks away. And Jay's like, oh my God, okay, whatever. So he walks around, pushes the cart 3 inches closer, and then goes back behind the cash register. And right, at this point, he's just looking at this cart, Jay's just looking at this cart full of random crap, basically. All this stuff he has to run through. So he's like, all right, well, this is going to be a bit of a job. So then he basically signals to his employee that he needs help bagging, because there are some bag people, but they come over and they're like, oh my God. So basically every bag person there had to come over to start bagging this stuff up. It was random birthday cake. It wasn't even it was just random leftover birthday cakes. It was the reject birthday cakes with names on them or misspellings or something. There was big things of it was the most random selection of random stuff he has ever seen before. It was ridiculous. But anyways, after ringing up every single item, it's about $1,000, right? It is an insane amount of random stuff. And it is 10 bags at this point. So Jay's like, all right, ma'am, your total is going to be $1,023. And the Karen looks at him and smiles and hands him this coupon, right? This gift certificate, not just a gift certificate, but a stack of gift certificates. And at the bottom, the stack is 15 large, and they all add up to pretty close to $800, $900, right? And Jay is scanning them,
And he's like, all right, ma'am, well, this one expired 7 years ago. Scans the next one. All right, ma'am, well, sorry, this one also is expired. And Jay goes through the entire stack and realizes that every single one has expired like 50 years ago, or not 50 years ago. And I know that like gift cards can't expire, but this must have been some kind of this was something that was like a promotion or something done with the grocery store a long time ago, but there was an expiration date on it. I don't know exactly what these were. All I know is that they could expire because they did expire. So the Karen is like, well, can't you just forget about the expiration date? I have these coupons, right? I shouldn't need an expiration date. And, Jay's like, sorry, ma'am, I don't, for me to give, a coupon or something, I need to scan it into the system. And when I scan these into the system, it's giving me, $0 off because they're expired. Trust me, I wouldn't really care. If you gave me a coupon and it was, legit, even if it was expired, I personally wouldn't care, and I would probably give you the coupon. If I'm being real, I would probably give it to you. But the problem is, I'm not the one in charge of giving, discounts or something. And the Karen says, can't you just, press some buttons on the boop bop over there and, change it all up to get me a discount? And, Jay's like, ma'am, trust me, I wish I could. And by the looks of, the number of items you bought and the total amount it's costing you, I could totally understand why you'd want that. But I honestly, I really can't help you out here. That's when the Karen starts to be like, well, wait a minute here. Wait a minute. I think I'm deserving of a discount for being such a loyal customer. Isn't there a button on your cash register for discounts for just wonderfully loyal customers? And Jay's just like, no. What? and she's like, what? No, I went to this grocery store before and they were like, oh, Christine, you're such a great customer, right? We love to see you every day. We'll give this to you for free. Why is that not happening now? And Jay's like, maybe that was the manager of the store because, he really has power over this stuff. You got to understand, I'm just a 9-to-5 employee making basically minimum wage. I push buttons on this thing. If I had any power and if I knew that you were coming here a lot, and especially since you had such a big purchase, I'm sure I would do that stuff too. Trust me, I'm a reasonable person. What I'm trying to tell you is that I'm not the person with power to do that. So she's like, all right then, well then get me your manager. And Jay's like, all right, well I can call him up. He doesn't really like it when I disturb him, but if it's a customer request, I'm sure he'll be fine. So Jay pulls out his phone and calls up his manager, and his manager is like, what? What is it now? And so basically Jay explains to his manager that there's, he didn't say Karen, but he said, there's a customer. Her name's Christine, I think. That's what she said. I don't totally know. She came here with and she bought $1,000 worth of items, and the manager's like, oh, wow. And she used, about this, this program you guys did 10 years ago where you had dollar amounts or something, and they expired after a couple years, and she just handed me a stack of what it would have been worth $800 worth of coupons, but they all expired 7 years ago. She's basically asking for a discount because she's such a great customer or something like that. And I told her I couldn't give it to her, but I said maybe you could. And the manager's like, man, I can't just give stuff out. I still have I might be managing this, but I can't just give her $1,000 for free. And Jay's like, dude, I know, but look, she doesn't take no for an answer from me. And Jay's trying to whisper this so that the Karen, who is looking at him very intensely with her hands on her fists, doesn't hear this, right? And Jay's like, well, dude, can you just come down here? I'm sorry. I just, and he's like, fine. So eventually hangs up the phone, and Jay's like, all right, ma'am, the manager is coming this way. And the thing is, right, today was kind of not considered a busy day, so there wasn't a lot of people doing the shift. And specifically during this time, which was 3:30 in the afternoon, for some reason, Jay was the only person who had a cash register open. So literally the line behind the Karen started to get longer and longer every single minute, this went on. So just imagine while I'm telling you the story, a line appearing behind the Karen that gets longer and longer and longer every single day. So anyways, right? So the Karen is just standing there, arms on her fists, and the line behind her gets longer. And that's when this guy comes out and kind of walks over, and he walks over to Jay, and Jay's like, hey, Mr. Manager, like, this is Christine. She's a customer, and she just wanted to know if she could get a discount for, you know, being such a good customer. And, you know, the manager's like, hello, Christine. Thank you so much for shopping at our shopping at our store. I don't know how much I can do in the, you know, the name of discounts, since, you know, we are kind of like more of a mom and pop grocery store, and our margins are really slim. So we barely make money on anything we sell in the first place, especially after paying all our employees and all that kind of stuff and paying rent and such. So I can't offer you anything too major of a discount, but I can definitely look for, you know, coupon, you know, these kind of like any promotions we run on certain items that you purchased. And personally, bro, I would have been like, thanks. Because look, the manager saying is, I'll go out of my way to look for coupons that you're supposed to be finding to give you a promotion at checkout. Like, that's not even encouraging you to buy them. The whole point of coupons is to encourage you to buy something. Not after you've already bought it, someone gives you the coupon. That's not how it works, bro. So the manager is actually really going out of his way to be super nice. But for some reason, the Karen is like, what? But I have $800 worth of coupons here. And the manager's like, ma'am, like, I'm so sorry. There's very clearly an expiration date on these coupons. And, you know, these are really old. The reason why we cycle through the promotions is, you know, we want to keep them fresh. I'm so sorry. You know, we've had to, like, turn people away with their coupons before as well. Like, it sucks to do it, and I know it's not great, but I'm sorry. We can't give you these, but trust me, I can go in the back and try and figure it out. And the Karen's like, fine, you go do that. So the manager kind of, like, turns around and, you know, kind of whispers to Jay, like, I'm not gonna do anything. So all of a sudden, right, the manager is kind of annoyed by the way that Karen's acting. So he basically told Jay, the person behind the cash register, and the subscriber that, yeah, he's not doing anything. So figure it out, basically. So Jay's like, as the manager walks away. Jay's like, so, ma'am, I was just informed that my manager is really busy right now, actually. He's really busy. And I was wondering, I don't think he can get you those coupons, but I can, and she's like, what? I'm not getting any coupons now, but I'm such a good customer. So all of a sudden, right, there's a guy behind her. So kind of like a bigger guy with like a mustache. And he's like, ma'am, like, look. He tries to, like, reason with her because he realizes that Jay's in no position of power, and the manager, who maybe could have done something, is just not dealing with it. He's like, ma'am, I'm sorry. Look, if you can't buy all that, I'd be happy to help you put some stuff away, but you are holding up the line, like, no disrespect or anything. And the Karen stops. She just, like, stops moving, right? And then her eyes get all, like, angry, like super evil villain anime arc type villain eyes, right? And she turns around, she balls up her fist, and she goes, meow, and, like, spins around faster than, like, she should have been spinning around with being, like, 55 and not super athletic, takes her bald fist, boom, hits this guy square in the face. The guy, like, flies back a little bit. One, because he wasn't expecting it, but two, it was, like, the curled up power. Like, the curled up power behind the Karen punch was actually enough to, like, do some actual damage. Guy starts bleeding a little bit from his nose, and the whole crowd, like, is shocked. However, there's one thing that Karen doesn't understand. This guy is not just a regular guy. This guy is a police officer for the town. He was just in his normal uniform. He just wasn't in uniform. He was just doing his normal stuff. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment Karen down below. I'll try and heart as many of those comments I possibly see that say Karen. And also, if you want to support the channel, maybe after watching this video, or maybe later at some point in the day or in the week or whatever, sit down and watch a bunch of my videos in a row. It really does support the channel. And also go down the comment section and comment down below what you're doing while watching these videos. Like, are you, I don't know, are you drawing like artwork? Are you playing a video game? Are you cleaning your room? Are you doing your homework? Do these videos help you fall asleep? Like, just let me know in the comment section. I love reading it, and I also will try and heart and reply as much as I can, just to say thank you guys for supporting the channel. If you don't know, watch time is one of the greatest things on YouTube, and sitting down and watching my videos and giving them a lot of watch time, basically minutes watched, helps out so much. Anyways, let's get back to the story as it's about to get crazy. So just a little recap. the Karen is mad that she wasn't able to use her old coupons, and she demands like a coupon, basically a big discount for being such a good manager. And after basically being told no, this guy behind her very like politely says, "Hey ma'am, like I'm sorry, like you're kind of holding up the line. I will, however, happily help you put this stuff away. If it's like, if you can't buy it all now, like I totally understand, all that." And in a fit of rage, the Karen turns around with her bald fist and basically punches this guy straight in the face, bro. Gets a clean KO. It's pretty crazy. But anyways, right, turns around. Okay, guy's not knocked out, but he's taking some damage, right? So the whole crowd starts like, it's like, oh my, everyone like behind them starts like whispering or whatever. And, you know, the police officer's like, or what, who is now the police officer is like, "Ma'am, like, did you just assault me? Did you just punch me in the face? Seriously?" And she's like, "I'll do it again for more disrespect." And the Karen literally starts pushes back the police officer once again, who at this point, again, has no idea what's going on, basically, and is kind of freaking out. Or not freaking out, but he's just so shocked by what's going on. The Karen pushes by him and starts punching other random people in the face. I'm not even kidding you, bro. The Karen goes behind the police officer and he's like, "You're disrespectful. You're disrespectful. You're all disrespectful." Bump, 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 bump. Just starts punching random people, and people are like running away, and some people are like holding like their hands over their faces so they don't get a slam from the Karen, right? It is one of the most ridiculous situations that Jay has ever seen. At this point, the Karen turns around and says, "You're the reason why this happened," and points directly at Jay. And the Karen starts waddling over, and Jay doesn't sprint out of there, but, you know, I don't know. Jay kind of like makes his way out of there, power walks, because no offense to the Karen, but she was kind of, I don't know. She wasn't built like she was going to be able to, you know, pull any Usain Bolt type running, right? She was definitely not built like that. So she waddles towards Jay and I was about to say Karen, and Jay starts to like, you know, he starts to power walk away, and he calls up his manager. He's like, bro. And the manager's like, "Don't call me bro." And he's like, I like the Karen, you know, the one that said no to like the you said no to for like the coupons. And the manager's like, "Yeah, sure. What's up?" "She's fighting people." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, she just punched this guy, and then she went on a crazy tirade." And this is when, you know, he looks over, he's like, and the manager's like, "Is that guy okay?" And he sees the guy's on the floor, but he's holding up a walkie-talkie. And Jay's like, "Why is he holding up a walkie-talkie?" And he's like speaking into like police codes or whatever. And Jay's like, "Oh my God, like the guy that the Karen hit is like speaking to a walkie-talkie in police codes. I think this guy was like a cop or something." And sure enough, right, this guy actually does happen to be a cop. He's just off duty. But he has his like walkie-talkie thing on him, and he calls in backup, basically explaining the situation using all the fancy police codes or whatever. And within a couple minutes, the police do arrive. However, before that happens, the Karen is going around flipping over like items, flipping over stuff, like attacking people, like trying to like punch other people. No one else got seriously hurt, thankfully. But the Karen is basically going on a crazy rampage at this point. So the police officers eventually arrive at the scene, and they go in there, and like the cop that was like hit in the face is like, you know, he gets a tissue or whatever, is trying to like stop his like bleeding nose, and he basically goes over to the officers, and they're like, "Officer Kenny, like, what happened?" She's like, "Hey," like, she's not much of a threat, but this like old woman over there is going crazy, punching people because she didn't get a discount or something. They're like, "All right, you know, we'll cool her off." And he's like, "Watch out, she's a feisty one." They all kind of laugh a little bit. So the police officers walk over, and Jace is watching this whole thing go down. And the Karen at this point does not see the police officers walking by, doesn't even know the police officers are here yet. And all she's doing right now, she's like pushing over stuff and grunting and being like, "The level of disrespect in this place is ridiculous." And just starts punching people, pushing stuff over. Basically the most ridiculous thing Jay has ever seen. This whole thing is like insane to him. So sure enough, right, the two police officers walk over and they're like, "Ma'am," and the Karen turns around and says, basically, is like, "Oh, hello, officers. There was a crazy wind that blew through the store. Do you see all this stuff all over the place? I think I might be in need of medical assistance." And police officers are like, "Ma'am, we know there wasn't a wind in the store." And she's like, "What? No, I saw it with my own eyes. You must believe me. There was a wind. It blew over all this stuff. See all this damage? A crazy wind came through." And they said, "All right, ma'am, so the wind punched one of our officers in the face?" And Karen's like, what? The officer's like, yeah, that guy standing by that you punched in the face is an off-duty officer. Karen's like, huh? She's basically just like, what? Huh? What do you say? Huh? And the police officer's like, ma'am, we have so many witnesses that you punched everyone. As well, this whole place is, guarded by security cameras. We have everything on footage if you really do deny it afterwards. Just come with us, ma'am. And she's like, no, they attacked me first. They all decided to gang up on me. And the officers are like, all right, so everyone in the store, including that mother and little 2-year-old baby, decided to gang up on you? And she said, yes, you won't believe it, but it's true. You must believe me. Officers are like, ma'am, why would we believe you? Like, I know for a fact when you check the cameras, that's not going to be the story. But even until then, if everyone... hey, look, our officer's punched in the face. There's no damage on you. And she said, the damage hurts my soul. You can't see it. It's internal. It's my soul that was hurt. They're like, what? She's like, internal damage. Look it up. And they're like, okay, whatever. Ma'am, our officer was punched in the face. And we also don't think that he and that little 2-year-old baby and that mom and that grandpa over there all decided that they, and that 18-year-old kid behind the check, like the cash register, all decided to gang up on you. That story doesn't make a lot of sense. Ma'am, I think you're going to have to come with us. So the police officers basically dragged her out of there as she was screaming, the disrespect from all of you. You must respect your elders. And she was literally yelling this to like a grandfather that looked almost older than her, bro. Like she looked like she was in her 50s. This guy might have been in his 60s, 70s, whatever. So she's dragged out of the store and the manager comes over and basically says, Jay, like, look, just don't tell a lot of people about what happened today and I'll give you the day off. Jay was like,
how's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a great day because today we have a story of a crazy Karen that ends up stealing the subscriber's dog. I'm not even kidding you. The Karen actually steals/abducts the dog. It's absolutely crazy. So sit back, relax, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and let's just jump right into it and call the subscriber Gabby. So anyways, this all started one day when Gabby was in the dog park, and because Gabby had a dog, it was a smaller dog. I don't know exactly what type of dog it was, but it was like, maybe it was one of those like white fluffy ones that isn't so big, but it was like a smaller dog. It wasn't a larger dog. That's just kind of an important detail for you to know. Also because the Karen probably couldn't abduct a large dog anyways, but Gabby was at this dog park that she would go to with her dog on the weekend. So every Saturday, she would drive over and, bring the dog with her. And, be able to walk around. The dog would be able to sniff all these new smells, would be able to see all the other dogs were in the dog park as well. And that's when one day Gabby met, the Karen, who is also at this dog park. So Gabby kind of recognized this older woman who has always kind of been at the dog park, but Gabby and her have never interacted until before this moment, right? So Gabby, this is just a normal Saturday where she's with, her dog in the dog park and, they're just hanging out, chilling. Life is good. Gabby's dog is sniffing some other dog's butts. Standard dog affair. And that's when Gabby's dog turns, looks at the Karen, and barks. And look, it's a freaking dog. Oh no, it barked at you? Oh no, that's crazy. No, it's normal. It's standard. But, the Karen was like, oh good heavens, did your dog just bark at me? And Gabby's like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, ma'am. He's a little feisty sometimes, haha. Normally, right, I'm a dog owner, and, sometimes my dog just barks at random people. Dude, that's what they do, bro. That's kind of just how they are. Some of them are better behaved than others. And it's really like, I don't get personally offended when a dog barks at me. But anyways, right, the Karen is like, you should teach your dog some manners. Like, you definitely have not taken good care of your dog if your dog is barking at random people and going on like that. And, Gabby was a little offended. She was like, what do you mean I haven't taken good care of my dog? Like, sure, my dog barked at you, but my dog doesn't bark that much. And also, that's not the worst thing. Hey, I could understand where you're coming from if my dog was going around biting everyone or like attacking them or like trying to eat some babies or something. Sure, fair enough. I don't know if she said that last part, but like I get that. But dude, she just barked at you. But the Karen was for some reason completely convinced with herself that like if your dog barks at someone, you haven't spent the time as a dog owner to make sure that they're, I don't know, I honestly don't know where the Karen was coming from on this, but the Karen kind of just went on and on again about like how how Gabby very clearly has not taken care of her dog or whatever, and how she's a terrible pet owner. Remember, this is all because the dog barked at the Karen once. Probably because the dog just got the bad vibes off the Karen. The dog was ahead of the curve. You know, sometimes dogs have these senses that, like, you can't really pick up on. And I think the dog picked up on, like, how insane the Karen was here, bro. I swear, I really think that that's the truth here. But anyways, right, so eventually Gabby's like, all right, well, that's fine, ma'am. Because the Karen is continuously going on about, oh, you're such a bad dog owner, man. Stuff like that. So Gabby eventually just gets out of there and goes to a different part of the dog park. And she starts speaking to her dog, and she's like, all right, buddy, let's not bark at anyone crazy like that again. Like, most people don't care, but every once in a while, you'll get someone like that. And honestly, Gabby thought that, okay, well, I'm probably never going to interact with this Karen again, because sure, I'll probably see her again at the dog park. Or sure, maybe, like, I'll run into her on the street or something. But, like, if I see her, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to steer clear and away from her. Because, like, bro, I'm not trying to have another conversation with this woman. Definitely not a productive time trying to have any conversation with her. So Gabby was like, all right, well, this is kind of the last time I'm going to see her. And this was until about, a week later when Gabby was at her own house, right? And she was just walking her dog around the block. However, she was walking out of her house, right, with her dog. So it was very clear that she was coming out of that house. And that's when she made eye contact with the Karen, right? And the Karen just happened to be walking around the neighborhood. And they make eye contact with each other. And the Karen is like, wait, I know you. I know you. Oh, there goes Clara. She's barking at something. Karen's like, I know you. You're the bad dog owner. And Gabby's like, bro, you can't be serious, bro. Like, really? So Gabby kind of just looks at the Karen and thinks to herself, wow, well, looks like I do have to deal with this woman one more time. And Gabby's like, I think you're remembering wrong. Because she's like, yeah, I could probably just, like, gaslight this woman to think that her memory's going bad. I'm not trying to deal with her, bro. And sure enough, right, the Karen's like, no, that's definitely you. You were the terrible dog owner that your malicious dog barked at me. And Gabby was like, have you really never had a dog bark at you, ma'am? And she completely ignores that question just to continue to, berate Gabby and be like, you're the worst dog owner I've ever met. And you know what? Like, it's not the dog's fault. It's your fault. All that dog needs is a bit of training from me. At this point, Gabby's like, wait a minute, is he trying to, like, pitch me a course or something? Am I being sold at right now? Like, what? And, and the Karen says, you know what? Because I am so kind-hearted. Because I have such a large heart, right? Because I have love for so many people. And Gabby's like, all right, ma'am, get to the point. And I mean, she doesn't say that, but that's what she's thinking. And the Karen goes, you know what? I will make a very large sacrifice. I will offer that I will take that dog off your hands and I will give it truly a good home. And Gabby's was just so shocked at this point because she's like, all right, this woman comes up to me and starts yelling at me and then says that she will take the massive sacrifice of stealing my dog. What? And Gabby's like, no, are you insane? And the Karen's like, just more evidence that you are the worst and that the reason why your dog sucks is because you suck. It's not the dog's fault. It's yours. And Gabby she's just so blown away at this point. She's like, the audacity of this woman. Goddamn. No, but anyways, Gabby's like, all right, ma'am, no. I'm now actually going to go walk my dog as I take care of my dog. And my dog is quite well behaved, actually, compared to most dogs. Quite well behaved. And the Karen's like, fine. I can barely handle this level of disrespect and, disrespect to your elders anyways. Like, have fun torturing that dog. And the Karen just, kind of, pouts and stomps away. And Gabby's like, oh, my God. I didn't think I was going to have an interaction with that woman again, but I definitely did not think that was going to be my interaction. Nevertheless, that's insane. So Gabby walks her dog, because they walk around in the back. And so a couple days go by, and something when, Gabby and her mom are in the house, they have a backyard that is practically fenced in, Like, it's not, you could go break into it, or you could, as you'll see in a second, you could push into it, you could kind of break into it, you know, but it's, the dog never leaves. So what Gabby and Gabby's mom let the dog do is, like, if the dog kind of goes to the door and kind of like scratches or whines near it, they'll let the dog out, and they'll let the dog out into the backyard. And when the dog wants to come back in, the dog will just kind of like paw on the door again. So basically, the dog has a pretty big backyard that, you know, the dog can go around, can sniff all the smells, can dig up dirt, can go fight with some squirrels. Kind of just allows the dog to be outside without any supervision or anything like that. And for that, you know, the dog has also not ever tried to escape before. So one of these days when the dog was let outside, it had been a couple hours, and it was about time for, you know, Gabby to walk the dog. So Gabby looks around the house and is like, okay, well, the dog was probably in the backyard, and he goes downstairs and goes to the backyard, and the backyard's empty. So Gabby, like, walks out and really looks around, right? She looks around the corners, she looks behind the trees, she looks in the bushes, and that's when, you know, when you, like, have lost something or someone, if it's your dog, but especially for me when I've lost, like, my wallet or something, or my phone or something, and you start looking around and you start getting that really terrible feeling knowing that it's lost, and you continue to, like, look at all these places. Like, you continue to look under things, and you continue to look even though you know that there's, like, no chance that they're there. Like, I'll look in drawers I've never opened for years, being like, please be in here, even though it's obviously not, right? And you just get that sinking feeling of, you know, it's gone. And Gabby was getting that feeling of, like, oh my God, my dog's gone. Like, where's my dog? So immediately, you know, she calls up her mom, and her mom is, like, out somewhere. She's like, Mom, I think the dog escaped. And her mom's like, what? The dog's never ran away. And Gabby's like, I don't know what happened, but she's not here. So Gabby's mom immediately rushes back, and while Gabby's mom is coming back to the house, Gabby once again is just kind of looking again, looks in the backyard again, looks throughout the house again, walks around the block, kind of like the walk that they normally do, like the walk that she normally brings the dog on. The dog is nowhere to be seen. So when Gabby's mom comes back, they both are kind of like, oh my God, what's going on? And Gabby's mom's like, okay, well, your dog probably hasn't gone that far. I mean, maybe, but, like, a small little dog, how far could it really have gone? Probably just got confused and lost, and this is walking around. So Gabby and Gabby's mom start, like, going around the neighborhood in their car, looking around. Once again, they're just kind of, like, driving around, looking for the dog. Gabby has the window rolled down, yelling its name out. I don't know, we can give it a name. I don't know. Give it a name or something. I don't know. Anyways, so they're driving around, and, you know, Gabby's mom's like, I'm going to keep driving and looking. If you want to just, like, start scouting out yourself, like, I don't really know what to do. I'm going to go on, like, Facebook and post on, like, the neighborhood group, like, photos of her dog, saying, like, have you seen this dog? We have not, like, she escaped or something like that. Gabby's like, all right, well, just let me know if, like, anyone knows anything, or just, because, like, Gabby was freaking out right now. This was her dog. This was her little baby, and this dog has never ran away. This dog has never even attempted to run away. This dog is hesitant doing a different, like, path. Like, the dog loves routine. Why would it change it up? It just didn't make a lot of sense to Gabby. And later, if you can see the title of this video, you'll know exactly why it made no sense. So within very soon, you will see one of the craziest things that a Karen has ever done. But real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment Karen down below. I'll try and heart a bunch of comments that say that. And also, if you do want to support the channel, all you got to do is at some point, maybe after this video, I say this every time, by the way, or maybe later, sit down and watch a bunch of videos, or as I say, binge watch the videos, maybe watch 1, 2, 3, whatever, and let me know what you're doing while watching the videos. Are you, like, playing a video game? Are you drawing, animating, cleaning your room? Or do these videos help you go to sleep? I no longer take offense to that, because I watch like King of the Hill to go to sleep. I actually like that show, man. It's like, it's a good show. I actually like it. Anyways, let's just get back to the story. Stuff's getting interesting. So Gabby is, like, going around the neighborhood. She's kind of, like, doing a light jog or whatever, yelling out the name of the dog, going around. And that's when she hears a bark. And you might be thinking, all right, bro, it's a bark. Like, come on. Dog barks kind of sound the same. However, Gabby was convinced that was the bark of her dog. So she immediately starts yelling the name again, and she hears the bark again. So she starts to try and, like, figure out where this bark is coming from. She tries to like locate the source of like the noise. Because yes, it could be another dog, but this is the first lead that she's gotten ever since her dog was gone. There's not a single other clue or lead or anything. So she's like, screw it, I'm taking this, I'm putting all my chips in. And Gabby like goes in the direction of the bark, and it gets her to this house. It's very, very strange, right? And she looks in the backyard of this house, and there's like the only thing that's like between like Gabby and the backyard is this row of like these shrubs, right? So Gabby kind of like pries the shrubs apart because she hears the barking from the backyard. And that's when she sees a dog sitting in the backyard, right? Barking. And it's a little white dog. And Gabby's like, okay, I can't be 100% sure. But in the middle of her thought, the dog kind of like moves its head, and Gabby sees the collar that's still on the dog. The collar is like a red and black stripe one, and it's the one that Gabby's dog had on before it, like, the dog was abducted, basically. And Gabby's like, there is no way that at this point this is a coincidence. And this is when Gabby is starting to realize, why is this dog here? Did he sneak through? Like, well, what happened? And that's when Gabby is about to go into the backyard when she hears a door open. So she doesn't push her way into the backyard, but she continues to watch. And she hears a door open, and she hears someone walk out. And someone walks out with a bowl of water and puts it down. And guess who it is? It's the Karen. And Gabby's like, oh my God. Oh my God. So anyways, Gabby like kind of retreats for a second, stays behind the shrubs so she can't be seen, takes out her phone and sends a message to her mom, explains like massive blocks of text explaining everything, and then also follows it up by like, I can't call right now. I think I'm going to try and get the dog. I don't want to be caught, right? So sends the messages, closes out her phone, and is kind of just waiting. So Gabby like, looks in and sees that like, the door is closed, so the Karen is no longer in the backyard. But Gabby is also aware that, there's a lot of windows, that, movement in the backyard, that the dog, Gabby's dog will probably start barking a lot and making a lot of noise when Gabby comes to pick the dog up because like the dog's going to be so excited to see that Gabby's there to pick him up, stuff like that, right? So Gabby's like, all right, I kind of got one shot with this. So Gabby kind of like pushes through the shrubs. It's kind of difficult. And Gabby's looking around and she sees like, she's like, all right, I'm going to have to like really sprint, right? I'm going to have to really send it like when I get the dog because going through these shrubs are going to be hard or whatever. She pushes through like the bushes and she's fully through. And all of a sudden she hears a barrage of barking. It's her dog. Her dog's running up to her, kind of basically jumps into her arms. The dog has had a terrible day, was abducted by someone, right? Apparently, it must have been that the Karen somehow broke into the backyard of Gabby's house because like, right, the Karen now knew where Gabby lived after they had that interaction and probably scouted out her house and probably went back another day, noticed the dog was there, and then either picked it up that day or a later day, kind of like broke in or whatever. So Gabby, reunited with her dog, is about to turn around when she hears, "Stop!" And Gabby turns around again, and sure enough, the door is wide open, and the Karen is standing there. And Gabby yells like, "Why did you steal my dog?" And the Karen's like, "I didn't steal anything. I was just doing, the service that as a dog owner should. Like, I was taking that dog away from the horrible life that he had with you, obviously, by the way it acted, the way it lashed out to me. It was lashing out in pain. It needed me to save it." And Gabby's like, "First of all, that's ridiculous. My dog simply barked at you, probably because it realized that you were a dog kidnapper. Second of all, you can't go around stealing dogs. You can't be doing that. That's not your place. That's not your place to choose these things." And the Karen is like, "I did what I know is right. And now I will do what I know is right by taking that dog back." So Gabby is like, "Oh, hell nah, bro." Turns around, pushes through the bushes really quickly, and the Karen's like, "No, get back here." And Gabby's like all the way through except her leg when she feels a tug. And sure enough, right, she feels two hands on her leg. And she's trying to pull through the bushes, right? And the Karen's like, "Get back here." And the Karen is legitimately pulling on her leg because she's like in between the line of bushes and then Gabby starts shaking her leg, shaking it, and then the Karen loses grip. She pulls through. Gabby kind of falls forward a little bit, but lets go of the dog before she like lands on the dog. The dog jumps down and starts barking or whatever. Gabby picks the dog back up and starts running. And that's when Gabby's like, all right, I think I lost her. So Gabby pulls out her phone, calls up her mom, and her mom's like, oh my God, what happened? She's like, I just like picked up the dog from the crazy Karen's house. I'm at 123 Elmer Street or whatever. Like, can you come pick me up? And that's when Gabby's like, actually, Mom, I'm gonna need you to come here kind of quick. I don't know where the Karen is. Wait, Mom, I'm gonna have to get back to you. And her mom's like, what? Gabby, what's going on? What's going on? Because that's when Gabby, like, she thought that because she can outrun the Karen, right? But that's when she starts seeing a car coming at her. And sure enough, looking into the windshield, it is the Karen driving that car. So Gabby starts running, right? And Gabby starts running, hops a fence, goes into another backyard. Dogs that are chained up in that backyard start, like, yelling or screaming or yelling, start barking at her. Gabby jumps another fence, and she hears a car go, turns a corner, right? She's like, oh shoot, she's on me. So Gabby goes in and she finds the dog park, right? Because the dog park's really close to where the Karen lives and kind of close to where Gabby lives. Gabby runs into the dog park, and obviously you can't drive a car into the dog park. So Karen parks, gets out, and that's when Gabby calls her mom again. She's like, the Karen is chasing me at the car, and Gabby's mom's like, oh my God, this is insane. She's like, Mom, I'm at the dog park. I need you to idle at, 748 like East Street, because that's like the other side of the park. The park's actually really large. So what Gabby was going to do is she was going to like lead the Karen through the park, and Gabby's mom was supposedly going to be at the other side of the park and was going to be waiting for her, right? And then like she'd jump in the car and get away. And Gabby's mom's like, I'll be there in like 2 minutes. It's really close, right? So Gabby starts running through the park. And, she sees the Karen far away, but the Karen's coming at her kind of like speed power walking or whatever, and yelling at her the entire time, being like, come back here. Come back here. So Gabby's running, gets to the end of the park, doesn't see her mom's car, and she's like, oh my God. The Karen starts approaching slowly but surely. Like, if her mom isn't here in the next 2 to 3 minutes, the Karen will catch up. And as the Karen's getting closer and closer and closer, Gabby sees her mom's car pull up, and she just runs to the other side, gets in, comes in, and Gabby's mom's like, oh my God, what? And Gabby's like, no time, go. So Gabby's mom, gets in the car, drives off, and the Karen's yelling the whole time. So, Gabby and Gabby's mom drive around for a little bit before they go back home. Gabby explains literally everything, and, Gabby's mom's like, all right, well, first of all, we should probably get some of the fence in our backyard now so that can't happen. We should install, like, a security camera. And then also, can we call the police? So Gabby's mom actually calls, like, the non-emergency line, so not 911, but the other one, explains the situation. They said, wow, like, that's insane. Like, can you give a description, like, of this woman? Because we'll go talk to her. Basically explain that, like, if she does something like this again, there will be consequences. So Gabby starts explaining, like, what this woman looks like. And they're like, oh, Shelby. Oh, my God. I'm so sorry. And Gabby's like, you know this woman? And the non-emergency police officer was like, yes, we get calls about her, like, every week. She's the worst. But this is probably one of the worst things she's ever done. So we're going to go to her for this time and say that, like, next time she does anything, like, that's it. And they're like, actually, thank you for telling us this. She's been causing problems for years now. And now we finally have a reason to tell her, like, it's done. It's over. So you might be thinking that this story is over and that things are going to be good, right? But no. Because when Gabby and Gabby's mom start driving by their house, they see... They see, because, like, when you pull up to your house, you're pulling up by so there's, like, a sidewalk that leads by Gabby's house, and they're pulling up to their house, and that's when they see someone walking on the sidewalk up to their house. And Gabby's like, go by our house, keep going. Gabby's mom's like, why? And she's like, that's the Karen. So the Karen was literally walking to Gabby's house. So Gabby's mom and Gabby, they start driving around again. They're like, oh my God, this is insane. And Gabby's mom calls up the non-emergency line again. And they're like, hey, how can we help you? And they say, hey, we're the people who called in like a minute ago talking about the dog and the old woman, right? And they're like, hey, so we don't know what to do because she is walking up to our house right now. And the non-emergency line's like, okay, well, I guess if we're going to confront this woman, doesn't really matter where. So they send a police officer up to the house, And, Gabby and Gabby's mom, start idling, kind of far away from the house, but within sight. And they see the police officer pull up to their house, and they see the Karen waiting outside. And that's when Gabby and Gabby's mom drive into the driveway and get out. So there's a police officer, the Karen, Gabby's mom, and Gabby's dog, right? It's a party, bro. It's going to be so hype. I'm kidding. Anyways, though. So the Karen starts pointing. She says, "I know that this little girl is a terrible dog owner. And yes, sure, I broke into their backyard and stole their dog, but I did it for good reasons." And the police officer's like, "Ma'am, so you admit to doing that?" She said, "Yes, but I do it in the name of good dog owners." And the police officer's like, "Ma'am, what?" He wasn't even trying to be explain what you're doing. He's just like, "Bro, what?" But sure enough, right, Gabby is like, "Yeah, this woman broke in, and I had to go into her backyard to steal my dog back, and she was chasing me." The police officer's like, "Ma'am," turns to Karen, "we've had to deal with you for years. There have been cases and cases of you overstepping, but this time you overstepped way too far, right? There's no charges. These these people could very easily press charges." By the way, they clarified they don't want to press charges earlier, and the police officer said, "But if you do one more thing, and any complaint comes in, our department is going to deal with this ourselves, because you've caused too much stress, too much turmoil, too much damage to this community by all the acts you've done, especially this one. This is insane. You broke into this young girl. Why do you think she's a bad dog owner?" And the Karen's like, "Well, that her dog barked at me." And the police officer's like, "What? Is that it?" And she's like, "Well," and he says, No, this is insane. You broke into this family's house and you stole something of theirs. You robbed them. This is ridiculous. The fact that they're not pressing charges, in my opinion, is ridiculous. But if you do one more thing, this department will use all of our resources to make sure that you are no longer a menace to this community." And the Karen is completely deflated at this point. It's like, "I understand, sir," and walks away. The police officers are like, "Guys, if you have any other sightings of this woman, right, please send them in. We'll do everything," right? And, Gabby's mom's like, "Well, we're getting a better backyard. We're also installing security cameras or motion sensor cameras that'll take videos of anything. And if she's in the backyard again, we'll also have proof and we'll come in for sure." And the police officer's like, "Thank you for reporting this. This is insane. She's been a menace for years, but I promise, if anything ever happens again, not even just with you guys, but in general with her, she will no longer be a problem to any of you guys." And they thank the police officer. They go back home. How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a great day, because today we have probably one of the craziest stories of an entitled Karen I have ever told on the channel. So sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's call today's subscriber PJ, who submitted this story. So this all happened one summer when PJ was working at a store. So PJ was working the night shift during the summer just to make some extra money. He was a teenager, and it was actually it was last year, or last school year was his senior year. So this was the summer right before college, and PJ just wanted to make a little bit of extra money. However, there wasn't a ton of job openings for the regular jobs, as he kind of went around and applied kind of late. And more of the fun jobs, like maybe being a lifeguard or ice cream, I mean, those are I don't know about fun, but at least, I don't know, a little bit more traditional. Those were already taken up. So PJ had to take the night shift at a grocery store. A lot of what he did was kind of just stocking shelves and replenishing, shelves when they were, out, moving inventory around. But also there were always a couple people that would come in kind of late and, they'd ask for stuff. And this grocery store was also, it was more than a grocery store. It was kind of like a lifestyle store too. So they had groceries, they had, items, okay? They had toothpaste, toothbrushes, home appliances. I guess it was kind of like, how Target and stores like that, and Walmart too, also have food aisles in them. So it was kind of like one of those stores. And PJ had been working the store for about 2 weeks, and he would go in every weekday, and he'd get the weekends off. And he started his shift at 6, and he ended his shift at 1 in the morning. He drove back home, of course. And about 2 weeks in was when was his first encounter with the Karen. We're just going to call her the Karen. For the rest of the story, as I don't want to come up with the name, and PJ never knew her name anyways. So this was all happened when PJ was just actually manning the shelves. He was replenishing the cereal aisle, so he's putting the Captain Crunch in there. I don't know, replenishing the shelves, and he hears ahem, and he turns around, and it was this woman. It was an older, larger woman with this kind of moo-moo thing on, and she had like this big blouse, and she was standing there, and she wasn't just standing there normally. She was standing there with like arms on her fists, like no, arms on her fists on her hips. There we go. She was very unhappy, and so PJ turned around and said, "Hello, ma'am. Like, how can I help you?" Because PJ's a good kid. He's gonna do what he needs to do to perform well in his job. And the Karen was like, "The customer service in this store is terrible." And PJ's like, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, there's not a lot of people working as it is, 11:30 at night, but how can I help you?" And she said, "The customer service in the store, reprehensible. I just can't get around. I can't. I was calling for help, and no one would come and help me." And PJ's like, "All right, well, I'm really sorry that happened. Like, as I said, we are kind of like understaffed at this hour. No one really wants to work right now. But how can I help you?" And the Karen for a third time is like, "It was ridiculous. No one was here to help me. It was crazy." And PJ's like, "All right, well that's once again, how can I help you?" And Karen's like, "Fine, I need help getting the very very specific brand of beans." And she says like Elmer's beans. I don't think that's a real brand, but she said a very specific brand. And PJ in his head was like, "We definitely don't sell beans that's like that brand. Like, I don't recognize it, but maybe I'm wrong." So he's like, "Well, ma'am, I can bring you to the beans aisle, and if they're not there, I can potentially look, in our storage to see." And the Karen's like, finally, well, take me there, young man." And sure enough, PJ brings her to the beans aisle, and she's like, "I already came over here where there's no Elmer's beans." And PJ was like, "Yeah, let me take a look. Yeah, I don't see any Elmer's beans." "Well, ma'am, there's a few things I can do. I can go in the back to see if we have any in storage, but if I'm being honest, I don't really remember us ever having this brand." And she's like, You guys don't have Elmer's beans? You don't have any Elmer's?" Oh my God. This is ridiculous. "You know what? Fine. You were no help to me anyways. I'm just going to go along my day." And PJ in his head's like, "All right, this woman's great. She's really nice. Really, really helping me out. Minimum wage employee. Definitely deserve all this. This is my fault because I run the store, apparently." And he's like, "All right, ma'am. Well, sorry this didn't work out." And she's like, "No, I bet you're sorry this didn't work out when you figure out what I'm about to do." And she kind of mumbles something about what she's going to do. And, PJ's like, "What?" And she kind of waddles off, right? So PJ thinks literally nothing of it. He's like, okay, this woman, she's probably a little senile. She's probably a little crabby. I mean, look, she's out grocery shopping at 11:30 at night. I bet her bedtime is like 7:30 at night. So this is probably a tough day for her, as it is a tough day to me. I can only be so upset. And that's when he hears kind of like rustling noises, like someone kind of frantically moving through items, kind of pushing stuff. And then he hears stuff falling on the ground. And this is when he thinks, oh no, because this has happened before where there's been kind of a display or a stand of a bunch of food items or, home good items. And they're kind of like stacked in a way that it's good for display, but structurally the integrity is a little compromised. So sure enough, stuff has fallen over and PJ's had to deal with it before. And once again, PJ just thinks, okay, well, there was probably like a stack of I don't know, canned goods that just fell over and knocked a bunch of stuff over. This is annoying. I have to go and clean it up, but sure, whatever. So PJ starts walking towards the location of the sound, and he sees the old woman very quickly dart out of the aisle he was approaching, and going this like really weird like evil laugh as she ran out. And PJ was like, "What the what? Huh? Okay. Like, okay." And so anyways, PJ goes there and he notices it's not like one pile of cans that's been knocked over. It's like a whole it's like a whole swath of like cans and materials and goods have all been like pushed over onto the floor. This was not some accident. This was very clearly someone kind of took their hand and started like slamming stuff onto the floor. So PJ was very, very, very suspicious. He knew that this was not like an accident. He knew this was not just something falling over. He was like, okay, maybe someone bumped into it and they just, they were embarrassed and they didn't want to pick it up. Fine, whatever. So as PJ is picking stuff up, he hears another crashing noise. And he's like, okay, now this is starting to get annoying. So PJ actually finishes putting all the stuff together, right? He finishes putting all the stuff back. And he starts moving the direction of the crashing noise. However, he makes a mental note to himself that if he hears another crashing noise, that he's going to stop doing what he's doing and sprint over, like full sprint. And this guy's a track star. This guy has bunny hops. He can go quickly, man. He is Usain Bolt, bro. But anyways, he's going to speed over there as quickly as possible. So as PJ's walking over to where he thinks the pile of like whatever's been, tossed over, he hears a crash. He knows exactly which aisle it's in. He can just hear it, and he sprints over there. And when he sprints over there, he turns the corner, and who do you think he sees? Yes, you're correct. He sees the Karen with her arm in the middle of like a big thing of cans, and he sees her push it over onto the ground and knock it over. And the Karen goes, and then PJ's like, hey, and she turns around and she's like, so you've caught me. This is what you get for not having Elmer's beans. And PJ's like, ma'am, you don't understand. I have to clean this up. And she says, I know that. That's why I'm doing it. And he's like, why? Like, I don't run this store. I don't stock this store. I don't choose what things we buy. I don't choose any of this. Why are you tormenting me in particular? And she said, I know you guys have Elmer's beans, and I know that you're withholding them from me. And PJ was like, what? He's like, why do you think that? Why? Like, what made you come to that conclusion? Because I know that you're hiding all the Elmer's beans in the back rooms for you. Back rooms. And he's like, why? I don't even know what those are. And she says, they were only the most delicious beans ever. And I've been going place to place and they're all out. And I know that the last supply was here. I know it. And I know you've been hiding them. So I'm going to continue to torture you until you give me the Elmer's beans that I deserve. And PJ is just like, oh my God. So he kind of like is like, all right, ma'am, well, keep at that. And PJ immediately power walks to his manager's office, or the supervisor who's on duty. Just goes knock, 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 knock. And he hears, come in, opens it up. He's like, hey, I got a weird situation. PJ explains everything that's been going on. And his manager's like, all right, well, I'll come and deal with this. So PJ and the manager walk over to where the woman is. And she's gone. And that's when they hear another crashing noise. And like PJ's like, all right, well, she's smashing something over there. And sure enough, they walk over there. And the frozen food aisle, so like the refrigerator doors open and like big things of ice cream are on the floor. But also like egg cartons are on the floor and some of the eggs are smashed. So before she was just being a nuisance, and now she's destroying she's destroying the produce in the store, so it's becoming an issue now. And the manager is like, ma'am, please, can you stop? We're going to ask you to leave. And the Karen says, I'm not going to leave until I get my Elmer's beans. Do you hear me, young man? This young man over here, and points to PJ, is withholding the Elmer's beans from me. He is stockpiling them in the back. And the manager's like, ma'am, I know for a fact we do not carry Elmer's beans here. And she says, you, points to the manager, you're in cahoots with him. You two are hoarding the Elmer's beans for yourself. And at this point, the manager looks at PJ, and PJ kind of gives him the look of like, I told you she's insane. Real quick, comment Karen if you made it this far into the video. It's the secret word of the day, and I just like seeing all the names and faces of people supporting me by watching at least halfway through the video. I really do appreciate you. And also, if you want to continue supporting the channel, literally after this video or whenever you can, sit down and watch 2, 3, 4, whatever number of videos. I call that binge watching the videos. And in the comment section down below, let me know what you're doing while binge watching these videos. Are you, drawing or doing some artwork, playing a video game, doing your laundry, doing your homework, trying to go to sleep? And also let me know how many videos you watch in a row in the comment section. I'll be shouting out random people like the person on screen. So thank you to the person on screen as well as all you guys for supporting the channel so much recently. Anyways, let's get back to the story. So just a little recap at this point, PJ brought over the manager to kind of stop the situation. The Karen has escalated to not just knocking over stuff, but destroying the products, aka the eggs that got smashed on the floor. And when the manager says that they don't carry Elmer's beans, and remember that's a stand-in name, I don't even think that's a real thing, the Karen starts going crazy thinking that the manager is in cahoots with PJ to keep the beans from her. No! Okay, obviously that's ridiculous. But this is when the Karen said, "You, both of you, you're in cahoots to keep the beans away from me." The manager's like, "Ma'am, that is straight up ridiculous." And she said, "No, you're ridiculous. Both of you are. And you will both pay the price." And she just waddles away. And PJ turns to the manager and is like, "Dude, what do we do?" And the manager's like, "Bro, I actually don't know. Like, I just kind of thought that me coming over here and saying, can you stop?" would make her stop. Like that has always worked. Whenever people were causing problems, I just came over them and said leave, and they kind of did. Like, and PJ's like, "So should we call the police?" And he's like, "Well, she broke like some eggs, so I bet we could, but is that really enough?" And in the middle of like that sentence, they hear a kaboom, a massive smash, and also a shattering noise. So they quickly run over to the situation, and they see the Karen now has a broomstick in her hand that she picked up from one of like the lifestyle sections and is going ham in the vase section, taking swings and kind of pushing vases onto the ground and smashing them. At this point, she's probably broken like $300 worth of vases. 350, 375, 400. She's just going 450. She just keeps smashing stuff, and the manager's like, Ma'am, you gotta leave right now or we're calling the police." And that's when the Karen throws her head back and starts to cackle. And she says, "The police! Don't you know the police can't arrest me? I'm immune to them." And the manager was like, "Bruh." So sure enough, right, manager and PJ, they run back as the whole store is being obliterated by this Karen, right? And they call up the police and they say, "Hey, we got Karen going crazy. She's breaking everything. Can you come?" And so sure enough, the police officers arrive and they meet the manager and PJ, and they hear, it's in the middle, you're hearing smashing noises. You're hearing destruction noises. And the police are like, "Oh boy, what's going on?" So they walk over to the scene and the Karen is sitting there laughing as she's breaking stuff. And the police are like, ma'am. And the Karen is like, "Oh, hello there, officers. Hello there." And the police officers are like, "Ma'am, what? You can't be breaking stuff." And she says, oh, but I can." And the police officers are like, what? What do you mean by this? And, Karen's like, "Well, here's the thing. You guys cannot arrest me. It is illegal." And the police officers are like, well, what do you mean by that? She's like, well, you just can't. I can't be arrested." And the police officers are like, you want to see? You want to see if that's a thing? And PJ and the manager is just looking at each other. And she says, "Catch me if you can, boys." And she's like, it's like the most ridiculous thing ever. She's next to like a ball pit, like a big container of balls, like for a bunch of like toys or whatever, for like, it's like a kid section. And she flips over the ball container. Remember, this is an older woman who's kind of larger. Like, she's not mobile. She flips over the ball thing and waddles into the next aisle, right? And the balls start flying everywhere, so you can't sprint towards it or you might trip on them. So police officers like, did that old woman just like say, "Catch us if she can," or if we can, and run away? The other guy's like, Like, I guess we got to go after her. So sure enough, the two officers kind of like power walk. They're not going to sprint after an old woman. They're like, oh, whatever. They kind of power walk in the direction that the Karen is gone. And at this point, right, PJ and the manager are like, what the freak did I just see? Like, this is the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen in my life, right? Like, I have no idea what's going on right now. So they kind of walk over to the next aisle, and the Karen's not there. In fact, they keep looking, and the Karen isn't anywhere. And the thing is, right, so they go over to someone who's manning the cash register, and they said, hey, did you see an old woman leave through these doors? And, the guy manning the cash register says, no one's come in since the police officers, nor left since the police officers came in like 10 minutes ago. He said, that's impossible. Like, where is she? So sure enough, like he says, hey, so this is the only exit, or, there's a fire exit in the back or something, but that would sound an alarm if it went off. And he's like, hey, don't let anyone in or out of this exit. The store is closed for now. It's under like police investigation. So the guy behind the cash register is like, oh my God, is everything okay? And he's like, well, it will be. And so sure enough, the manager and PJ meet up with the police officers, and they say, like, fellas, like, we can't find her anywhere. I don't know how she did it, but she escaped. And they say, hey, she's somewhere in this store. We had our guy, like, holding off, like, the guy at the cash register is making sure that no one is leaving the premises, and no one's getting in. She's in this store. The only other exit is a fire exit, and the alarm would sound if she went that way. And so sure enough, the police officers, the manager and PJ, they continue to scout out the store. They do their rounds, and for the love of them, they can't find her, and they think it's ridiculous. They said, this is an old portly woman. How on earth did she like find her way? Like, how did she get around this? Like, this is insane. And that's when they go, and then that's when PJ said, hey, like, aren't there security cameras? And sure enough, the manager's like, yeah, actually there are security cameras. And he said, aren't there like security cameras for all places like in the store? He said, yeah, actually. So sure enough, they go around, and they go to the security cameras, and they're looking through it, and they're like going through, and they just don't see her anywhere. And that's when PJ said, hey, did you check the security cameras for the storage? And they're like, no, because they're like, why would she go in there? They flip it on, and there she is, the Karen. And you know where she is? She's looking through the bean section. She's trying to find their storage of the alleged, like, hiding of all their treasure, a.k.a. Elmer's beans, which, why? So sure enough, they're like, all right, we found her. So the police officers start, like, running towards the storage place. PJ and the manager start running towards that area, too. They get to the door, and they go to try to open it. It's locked. And the manager's like, what? Because he turns to PJ, because, like, how's it locked? And that's when PJ remembers, oh, no, he left the keys inside there. She must have used them to lock the door, and now they can't get in. And he's like, PJ, do not tell me that you left the keys inside of there. He's like, how would I know that a crazy Karen was going to come in and accuse us of stealing her precious beans, outrun the police, and hide out in the storage place? How would I have known that? He's like, well, don't leave the keys in there. It's part of the procedure. And PJ's like, okay, fine, fair enough. But either way, she's in there. She's locked herself in there, and there's no way for us to get in. And the manager's like, well, actually, there is one way for us to get in. And he points to an air duct, like one of those vents. And PJ's like, dude, you're freaking kidding me. This is not a television show. I'm not going in there. Police officers are like, we'll turn a blind eye. You can go in there, son. He's like, what? Sure enough, right? Okay, this wasn't like a crazy vent or anything. It's not like PJ risked getting chopped up into a billion pieces, or I don't know. Maybe he risked like inhaling some mold or something, but sure enough, it was a pretty big vent, and it went straight into the storage room. And PJ was not trying to, like, face off against his granny, because he's like, she really wants these damn beans, bro. Like, I'm not trying to do that. All he needed to do was open the door. So PJ was like, all right, fine, I'll do it. But you guys got to stand by the door, and the second that I open that thing, you got to come in here and help me out. He's like, all right, fine. So sure enough, PJ opens the vent and is slowly climbing through it, because he doesn't want to climb through the vent too quickly, because you can only imagine, like, bum, 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 bum. If you're going too quickly, you're going to make a ton of noise in that vent, and she's going to know that you're coming. So they keep going, bum. So he goes, bum, bum, very quietly and very slowly. And he gets closer, and he gets to the vent part. So he gets to the grate looking into the storage room, and it's like a 3-foot drop. It's not like he's jumping from the ceiling. This is not a massive warehouse or anything. And he gets to the grate, and he can see the Karen on the other side of the room. And he also sees the grate there. And that's when he sees that the grate is like screwed in. It's not screwed in really tightly, but if he's going to get through that gate, he's going to have to like power kick that. He's going to have to like take his boot and like kick through the gate open, which is going to like open the grate, right? It's going to make it fly out, but it's also going to alert the Karen to his presence. And she really wants those beans. And if he's being honest, he's kind of scared of the Karen right now. And I'm not going to lie, I'd be a little scared too. So PJ is like, okay, I got one shot to do this. We could also wait the Karen out, but you know what? Screw it. So PJ kind of like maneuvers himself, lifts up because he doesn't have a lot of room, but he like lifts up his leg and boom, quickly does a very solid kick to the grate. Thankfully, he makes the right contact that he breaks the gate open and he immediately slides out. And he makes eye contact with the Karen across the room. And the Karen is rummaging through beans. And she's like, you. So while PJ is kind of freaked out, he is high on the adrenaline rush. And he sprints. And when I mean sprints, he is doing he's envisioning himself in the 100-meter dash as he was he was in track in high school. So he was very good. Quick with that. Boom, immediately sprints there. The Karen is waddling towards him, right? No idea what her intentions are. Immediately is able to unlocks the door, pushes it open. The two police officers push back and are like, ma'am, freeze. And I mean, they're not drawing their guns or anything, but she's like, you can't arrest me. And then they go over and arrest her. Yeah, you can't. Nope, you can. So sure enough, the police officers get her in cuffs. And they're like, all right, well, manager, you're going to have to go through and figure out how much all the damages are. Send that to us, and we'll send it to her, and we'll get this figured out. And he said, at the minimum, we can't issue a restraining order because only judges can issue restraining orders. But we can submit a case to a judge that I bet we could get a restraining order within the next 5 hours, and we'll have her in the custody for the next day or so while we have this figured out. And the manager's like, yeah, I'll probably have to send a report up to corporate because this is insane. And, he's like, okay, that totally makes sense. And so sure enough, the police officers, they escort the Karen out of there. And PJ goes up to his manager and says, hey, man, can I have the rest of the day off? Which is 12:30 by now, so it's half an hour. He's like, yeah, you know what? I think it's fair enough to close up shop. So PJ gets back home, and his mom notices, oh, it's 12:40. He normally gets back around 1:10. So she's like, oh, close up early? PJ's like, yeah, we closed up early. And she said, any reason why? PJ's like, oh boy.
Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it.